clock here, it's still feminine.
This way is a little behind.
Okay. Okay, so let's start. So thanks to all of you to come here again in this second lecture about anatomy, physiology, and biomechanics in relation with our practice. So I would like to say thanks to Deborah, to Saumya, that Anekta, Tali, that help us to improve what we are doing here. So I think this is the point that the point here is yoga, no, and we are all just serve to the teachings. Okay, so the importance is the teachings. Okay? This is the importance here, the teachings. And we all are just here to serve, to be instruments for the continuation of the teachings. That is the important thing. So I would like to start the class with this image, let's see if it comes. This photo is very old photo, it's from the 19th century, and these two men here, these two persons, they are considered the founders of the osteopathy. They are the who come out with the ideas of osteopathy. So I would like first to say that osteopathy is not a therapy. It's not a therapy. Osteopathy is a way to understand human body. Okay? You get that? Yeah? And of course, if you understand something, you can fix it. Yes? So osteopathy is not a therapy, but someone who understands the human body can fix a body. Yes? So I want to say that because if we are talking about osteopathy, we are not talking about therapy. We are talking in a way to a science to understand human body. So the person that you see in your left side, the person here, the man here, he was the father of osteopathy. His name was Andrew Taylor Still. He was from North America, from USA. He was a doctor, and he was in the Civil War, like a medical soldier. And then when he came back to America after the Civil War, he started to develop all of ideas about how to understand the body. He go deep in the understanding of human body, and then as a doctor, he understood how to bring health to the body without medicines and without surgeries and all of this. So the first idea of osteopathy is that if you get or you give the proper environment, if you create the proper circumstance in the body, body can come to the balance by itself. Okay? This is what in Sanskrit, the word for health in Sanskrit is swasthya. Means swasthya in Sanskrit means to be stable in oneself. Swasthya, to be stable in yourself. This is the Sanskrit word. Actually, if you go to Rishikesh market, there is some pharmacies that they say swasthya, because I think in Hindi is the same, no? Swasthya, the same, the same word. So this is very important because we are all the time talking about the stability. This is the main point in yoga, to be stable. It's not to be flexible, it's to be stable, ast, no? The root of the verb ast, not to be stable. So in osteopathy is the same. If you give the proper environment for the body, in the proper circumstance, body can come back by itself to swarupa, his own nature, self-nature. No? That is the idea of yoga itself, of course. Yoga, the practice of yoga creates the environment in which the self can come back to its own nature, swarupa. Okay, this is what Patanjali explained in the in the sutra from the first chapter. Drashtu Swarupa Avashtana. Okay? So what is the point? Is to avoid the fluctuations, unbalance, chitta vrittis. When you control, when you avoid the dwandas, the fluctuations in the body, the fluctuations in the mind, the self by itself come back to his own nature. This is the whole idea. And the person that you see in your right side, this man, he is Martin Littlejohn, the person who comes out with the idea of lines of gravity and polygons of force that we are studying in this class. Yeah, this was this man. And what I like of this photo is that, as you see, they are looking the body of someone else, the inner body, the skeleton of someone else. They are looking and they are understanding. This is the 2 points: to look and to understand what you are looking, what you are seeing. Okay? So what we do in yoga, what we do in our practice is the same, but not the skeleton, not the inner body of someone else, but our own body. Okay? So here, there is a big difference, because what they are doing is an outer scene, outer view of the body of someone else, and what we are doing in our practice is an inner view, to develop the capacity of perceive ourselves from inside. And this is very important and make a big change, because you need to develop the capacity not only to see, but to understand what you are seeing. This is important. This is the development of intelligence, okay? So in the same way, when we look ourselves into the practice, when we are practicing and we perceive the sensations, because how you can see what is the view when you are seeing yourself from inside, when you are practicing, it doesn't mean that you have to close the eyes. So what is the tool you are using? Because you cannot see with your eyes, but somehow you are looking yourself. So what you use is what you see is feelings, sensations in the body. Yes or no? This is what you are looking. This is what you are seeing when you do an asana and you straighten the legs. You observe some sensations in your body, some feelings. So this process of being able and develop the capacity to perceive yourself and to feel the sensation in the bodies is what is called in yoga buddhi. That is one of the faculties of chitta. Actually, it's the main faculty of chitta, buddhi, because buddhi has the capacity to perceive, to feel. Okay, that's important. And I want to say that because when you are looking yourself into the practice, what you are understanding about yourself, what is happening in your own body, doesn't have to come through the process of thinking. So you don't have to put in words. This is a big mistake. You are doing Adho Mukha Svanasana and you perceive that one leg is not straightened or one shoulder is not rotating properly. So you don't have to put in words. Of course, if you want to say to someone, you need to put in words. No, my shoulder is not rotating properly. But in your own intimicity, if this what you are feeling, you put in words in your mind, you are going to the wrong way, because you are using the mana, you are using the process of thinking. And in buddhi, there is no thinking, there is no thought. You just perceive what you are doing, you understand what you are doing, and if you need, you correct. So it's a direct process. It's a direct process. So that is important to keep in mind. So then, thanks to these two men, we are able to study all these things. So then from here, I would like to come back to what we already saw in the previous class. We talked about the force of gravity and the result, the second force that come from gravity, so the movement, descending movement of a prana, and the ascending movement of prana that come as a result of the first movement, descending movement of gravity, means a pan. You remember that? Mm-hmm. So we thought that this is it's really clear, explained by Newton in the third law of gravity. So he said, if an object A, so mean the body, in this case, in our practice the body, exerts a force on object B, means the floor, the earth, the object B must exert a force of equal magnitude and opposite direction back on object E. You see? It's very clear. If I press the floor, I come out from the floor, away from the floor. Eh? If I stay here in the wall and I press the wall, I come out far away from the wall. And then here there is something very beautiful for us. Let's say this law represents a certain symmetry in nature. You see, the word symmetry is sama in Sanskrit, sama. This law represents a certain symmetry in nature. Force always occur in pairs. Yeah, the word pairs in Sanskrit is dvanda, the sutka dutka, the night and the day, pairs. And one body cannot exert a force on another body without experiencing a force itself. This is the law of karma, action and reaction. You see how close? And then say something very nice. When two forces of equal magnitude but different directions are applied to a body, it is in balance. The body is in balance. This is yoga. All the process of yoga is about sama, balance. You see? But the forces have to be in equal magnitude. Because as you know, I don't know how to explain in English, maybe you can help us, know that you are mathematics. So when two forces have the same magnitude, they become zero. No? Yes. Yes? It's like this, no? They become zero. And this is very important thing to understand, because what actually time is, because time is just a conception in the mind, it's creating in the mind. Time is just our limited perception of the movement of matter. Yes. Of course, you understand that? Yes. Time is only because there is movement. Yes? So when there is no movement, there is no time. Yes. So if these two forces, equal forces, become zero, so there is no movement, there is no time. And the experience of yoga, Atma Vidya, the knowledge of the Atma, knowledge in the sense of experience. The point is that we cannot talk about experience, because Atman is not an object that you can perceive, so it's not experience. So they say the knowledge of Atma, the realization of Atma. Atma Vidya is a process that takes time, some called process, because also it's not a process, but it's something, and it's also not something. So you understand the limitation of the word, but what is that, whatever it is something that happened out of time. So all the practice of yoga is to learn how to be stable, how to be quiet, how to be in one place. That is the idea. That is what we try to realize. Okay, so now we go to the lines of gravity. So this is just overview what we saw last class. So we talk about two lines, that actually three lines. Yes? We want to see why. So the first line we saw that this line comes from the front of the head, yes? Because this is not the head, this is the face. What you see here is the face. This is the head, the skull. Okay, so it's come from the front of the head, foramen magnum, and then come down until the tailbone, and it supports the weight of the front of the head. Okay, so in this direction of the line, it touches the front of the P4, so it's not the vertebra itself. This is an important point. because it's not about the vertebra. Of course, the vertebra has deep relation, but it's in front of the vertebra. It's not touching the vertebra. That's important point. And then come down, is in relation with the T11, T12, in which the diaphragm attach. So we're going to see all these things. And then continue to go down and touch this extremely important point, because most of the hernias, slip disc, no? Slip disc. Most of them come here, between the L4 and L5. L4, L5, L5, S1. But most of them comes here, and this has a reason. We are going to see all these things, okay? Practically, I don't know how you can call in English bisagra. Bisagra means this when you move the window.
The mechanism.
Hinge.
Yes, everyone understand what is that? Yes, what is an bisagra? Yes, so it's this one. So this is an hinge. Okay, so it's closing. This vertebra is closing and it's open. It has to be always open. In all the asanas, this has to be open. This is very important. Not only because of the injuries of the back. I want to remember that all the process of alignment, because some people say, no, yoga yengar is because like this you don't get injury. It's not about that. Whatever thing that you don't do properly, you can get injury. Just walking, if you don't walk properly, you can get injury. So it's not about Iyengar yoga because doing Iyengar yoga you don't get injury, of course. But it's not only about that, okay? So this has to be always open. And to open this point, you need to move the table in. You need to create this movement in the sacrum to move these two vertebrae backwards. Okay? We will go to that. So then we have these posterior anterior lines. So we say that there are two. They call one. The posterior anterior line, but actually there are two. So they start from the back of the head, from these 2 points here, inside the occipital, deep in the occipital here. And they come down, but at the level of the D4, they cross each other. Okay, so they do something like this. If you see me from the front, they are not parallel to each other. They are crossing each other at the level of the T4. Okay, you are looking from the front. This image is showing them from the side, like this. Okay, like this, from back to the front, and they come down, and they have an important relation with L3. We are going to see this vertebra is very important because, as we saw before, maybe in this image is not so clear. Then with the anatomy application, we will see better. These two vertebrae, because of the anteversion, the natural anteversion of the pelvis, these two vertebrae are facing down, are pointing down. So L3 is the first vertebra that comes to the horizontality. Okay? And actually, the L2, L1, here is not clear. They are pointing up because it's an convention. See, this is convex, this is concave. So if this is an arch, these two vertebrae pointing down, these two vertebrae pointing up, and L3 is the first vertebra that is horizontal and is in the relation with the navel. So it's the vertebra of the equilibrium. Sometimes we say that because also these two vertebrae, L4, L5, are deeply connected with the iliac bone through the ligaments, the sacroiliac ligaments. So we say, in osteopathy, they say that the L4, L5 are part of the pelvis region, okay? And the spine starts from L3. Because it's the first vertebra that stays horizontal. So it's the first support for the rest of the spine. Okay, so when we push the abdomen forward, yes, this vertebra is coming forward. So you push the lumbar. This is the reason. If you push the lumbar forward, you lose the stability of the rest of the line of the spine. Okay? And then finally, these two lines finish in the hips, in the socket, in the acetabulums. Okay? So now, if we see a little bit, we try to see that in 3 dimensions. Maybe someone who can help me. Jose, you can help me, please? So maybe let's see if we are going to try to see this from 3D. So this will be the anterior posterior line. Yes, this is the front of the head, this is the tailbone. I try to make more, to exaggerate a bit the inclination, like this you can see, okay? But it's not like this, okay? And then back, we have the 2 other lines that are actually crossing. This is the back of the head, and this is at the hip. We are exaggerating, okay? Like this you can see. In the place in which all of them are crossing is the T4, dorsal spine, T4. So now what comes in the 3-dimensional, in the 3 dimension, when you see this, is you see 2 pyramid. Yes. Pyramid. Yes, it is not a triangle because it's in 3D. Do you understand that? So you have one here, you have one here, okay? Here, you see that there is also a triangle, horizontal triangle, see? This is the support for the head. The head has to be support here, okay? And then in this lower triangle, you support the trunk. Hips, tailbone. You give support to the trunk, okay? And then remember that these lines are vectors. Vectors is a straight line in which the force moves. So now, until now, we are just talking about gravity, descending force. Because then we have to give the other way. So at the moment we are talking about what is physiology for the body, what is natural. Just stand up and don't do anything if you are properly stand. So from these vectors, the weight of the head is coming to the T4. So we can see that the head is supported by the T4 in equilibrium, in a small point. And then from here, the force of gravity distributes in an open pyramid to the hips and the tailbone. So in the tailbone and in the hips falls the weight of the trunk, okay? And these 2 pyramids meet in the T4. You understand that? Yes? Okay. So we can go a little bit forward. Okay, so now it comes to important point.
So the heart is supporting the head.
The heart is supporting the head. The heart is supporting the head. Yes, of course. It comes here. Sometimes I remember there was a teacher, and I think it's a younger instruction, no? Because most of what we hear from our teachers, it comes from Guruji, no? This is the transmission, parampara. It must be like this, no? The transmission. That the cells of the brain, and actually I heard from Ushaya as well, the cells of the brain have to come down toward the chest. Yes or no? So this is the direction. So here I brought some points that I would like that we keep in mind to clarify what we already saw in the last class. So the first thing that we have to understand is that these lines are actually imaginary lines that we create. These lines are not like this. No, you're born with these lines. So you're born and you have these lines in your pack, in your stuff when you're born. No, it's not like this. These lines are imaginary lines that we create, and this is the beauty of the practice. So what we have is the reference, the head, the front of the head, the back of the head, the T4, the the T11, the T12, the L3, the tailbone, the hips, and then the legs, because the center line comes to the legs. We are going to discuss that also. So we have the reference to understand how to create the lines. The second point is that these lines are vectors. We already said that. So if they are a straight line from where the force is moving. And then these vectors transmit the force of gravity between various structures. Okay, the head, the T4, the T11, T12, L3, etc. Okay? So the vectors transmit the force from the head. I'm talking about gravity, descending force, because then we have to do the opposite. Once you reach the feet, the arch of the feet, you have to do the opposite. From the arch of the feet to the knee, from the knees to the hips, from the hips, tailbone, towards the L3, from the L3 towards the diaphragm, from the diaphragm up until the head. Okay? So that's the point. And then say, there is structures. When I say the structures, it's always again, all these vertebrae, the tailbone, the hips that we said before. So these structures take place in the various cavities of the body. The head, the thorax, the abdomen, and the pelvis region, okay? Each of them are closely related to important system within this cavity. Okay, so we're going to see all of this during these classes, during these weeks. So the bottom of the head, the occipital, is really deep connecting with the nervous system, with the brain. We are going to see that because what osteopathy realized, what they understood, is that the bones of the head are not fixed. From the classical medical view, the bones of the head are fixed, they don't move. Yes, but what the osteopathy understood is that some movements are there. The point is that so extremely subtle movements that you cannot see with your eyes. But what the osteopathy is doing, the therapy, is through the position of the hands, they can feel. If you train yourself, because this is what I have been doing when I was in the school, if you train yourself, you can place the hands on someone else's head, and you can perceive that the bones of the head are moving. The movement of the bones of the head are completely important for the proper function of the nervous system. Okay, we are going to follow this. And at the same time, in the thorax, the brain, the heart, the diaphragm, okay, and then in the pelvis, the diaphragm of the pelvis. So all of these structures are closely related to important systems within this cavity. Then one point more. Each of these systems contains a diaphragm. There is a diaphragm inside the head. There is a diaphragm. So we don't have only one diaphragm. We have a diaphragm inside the head. We have a diaphragm inside the throat. We have a diaphragm, of course, in the thorax, in the lower part of the thorax region. And then we have a diaphragm in the pelvis. This diaphragm, and someone has to help me with this word, dynamize. No, okay? This systems. This is extremely important because only in this body is about these inner subtle movements. So when the diaphragm moves, when the bones of the head can move, when the diaphragm inside the head moves, so this gives the movement of pulsation. Pulsation? Pulsation. This is what the body needs. Pulsation. Inside the head, pulsation inside the chest, pulsation inside the pelvic region. But for the free movement of this diaphragm, of these systems, the outer body has to be stable. This is one of the reasons for why many persons have problems in the diaphragm, in the diaphragm of the pelvis, because the diaphragm of the pelvis is deeply related with the organs inside. Okay, sexual organs, and then skeletal organs. Yes, in English. Yes, skeletal. Yes, can say. Okay. Yes. Yes, I
Secretion.
Excretion.
Secretion.
Secretion, yes.
So I hear what you're saying about this diaphragm, but what physiologically, structurally are you referring to when you're speaking about a diaphragm in the head, for example, in the throat, and in the pelvic region?
Can you repeat again a
Yeah.
little bit?
I understand what you're saying and how it makes it, I think what you're saying is it makes it a dynamic.
Dynamic.
Yeah. So, but what what anatomical feature are you specifically referring to when you talk about a diaphragm in the head region and the throat region and
Which kind of,
in the pelvic?
which kind of,
What structure?
Which part of the
what
body?
is structure? It's a connective tissue.
Tissue. Yeah.
It's a connective tissue, it's a fascia.
So there's a fascia-based structure that's comparable
Yeah.
to this diaphragm that we all know about that exists in those other.
Yes. The idea of the classes that because until I will leave in middle of March, we will go going around all these lines. So my idea is that in every class we are going to see all these systems. I want to explain what is this diaphragm in the brain, what is this diaphragm in the thoracic region, to see all of them. But in the head, we have the sphenoides. The sphenoides is one of very particular bone. So let's see if you want to just to have a look now. This body is extremely amazing. Sophisticated. You don't need anything else.
Two blocks.
You have you have been gifted for nature, for God, with this incredible body as a vehicle, no equipment to navigate in this world, in this life. So you don't need anything else. You don't need anything else. Okay, so this bone is amazing. Look this bone. This is a bone. Look this bone. Inside the head. Is this the bottom of the head? This is the bottom of the head. What a shape. And you know what is this part? You know what is this? The temple. The temple? Here, the grip, which Adi talks in the class. And you know what there is here in this hole? Inside this hole, what pass? Can I say that? What pass? What is passing by this hole? What?
The optical
The optical nerve. The optical nerve. The eyes, our eyes, are here. This is the eye here, and then the optical nerve passes through this hole back to the brain. So when we say it in class, because eye is nerve, eyes are considered part of the brain. So we can see the brain. Yes, of course, look my brain. If you see my eye, you are seeing my brain, because it's really part of the brain. So when in class we say, bring the eyes back to the head, it's not a romantic idea. It's even possible. It's extremely possible because you can move. So this is why India philosophy is so extremely deep. Because 1,000 years ago, they understood that there is the organ, the physical organ, the Janindrija, the eye, but then there is the Tanmatra, that is the subtle energy in the eye. So one thing is the eye, the organ, and then there is the subtle energy of the eye, that is the power of seeing, the capacity of seeing. These are two different things, you understand that?
Yes.
And the Tanmatras are expressing in the body through the nervous system. So when we say to bring the eyes back to the back of the brain, actually it's possible. What you are doing is to move the Tanmatra, the subtle energy, the subtle intelligence, because the Tanmatras is like a specializations of the consciousness that comes from, it's separating five, to give possible the perception of the world. through the eyes, to the nose, to the ears, to the tongue, to the skin. You can perceive this world. You can know this world. That's called jnana, to know. Jnana indriyas, organs of perception, organs of knowing. So you can move really this distant matra through the nerve system. And then something else. And then something else. Here, in this part, it is called let's see how is the English name, I don't know. In Spanish, it's called a silla turca, means something like a Turkey chair. Because it looks like in Turkey, they have the chairs like this. So they, in Spain, at least in Spain, this part of this bone is called Turkey chair. So here, just imagine what is placed in here, is resting in this chair. Any idea? You have to know. The how you call it?
Pineal gland.
Pineal gland.
Yeah.
Pineal gland. Actually, there is the la hypophysis and la pituitaria. Hypophysis. It's not the perineal. Perineal is backwards. The perineal gland is a little bit backwards. Here, I think is the hypophysis. Okay? So this gland that is here is called in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika the moon. And in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika they say when you are stand up, the nectar of the moon is falling down and is born by the sun. This is what is called in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. The sun is the solar plexus here. And the moon is this gland. And the hormones that come out from this gland is coming down from the esophagus and then is born in the stomach. So this reason in Hatha Yoga Pradipika say, so therefore, Viparitta Krani. You have to do inversions to keep these organs inside the brain. And there is a mudra, it's called Kichari Mudra or Jiva Bandha. I think Ushaji knows that in the past the yogi, they bring the tongue back to the mouth to stimulate this gland. To stimulate the gland. So all this technology was there before. Okay? And then, to finish this, that, Kichari. Or Jiva Bandha. And then at the end, Alison, everything comes because from the question of Alison, we will see that in a little bit deeper. Over this bone, so this is the gland here, over this bone, there is some kind of tent, like have to go to camping, that is the diaphragm of the brain. The diaphragm of the head is here, protecting the moon. And this bone here, back there is the occipital. And the occipital and this bone, the sphenoides, they move in flexion and extension. And when they move in flexion and extension, in this side, in this, I will put this image like this. So let me go to see the two bones. Here, you will see this phenomenon.
Multi-selection.
Yes. You see now the two bones.
Wow.
You see, Joy. So these two bones are moving in flexion and extension, flexion and extension, flexion and extension. And when these two move in flexion and extension, the diaphragm that is in this side is in the other is crossing, and the gland is here, is moving in extension, flexion and extension, flexion, extension. So there is a pulsating system that stimulates the gland and the brain. And the nerves, the eyes are here. So this is a great system. So when you understand all these things, you don't need anything else. You already have a body. You don't need anything. No. This moving happens when you are resting in your bed.
Okay.
But now what is the point? That if the head is not in proper alignment, this movement is not. If your head is tilting, if the head is tilting or is not in the proper place, this system cannot work properly. So now I'm going to this explanation. We were talking before about the diaphragms. Diaphragm cannot move if the outer body is not stable. So I will come to some examples. This is very normal. Many problems, especially in women, that take place in the organs, the reproductive sexual organs and excretion organs. Many of the problems that comes in the organs of, I say women, but it can be also for men, yes? It comes because the muscles of the pelvis floor are too tight. There are hypertonia in the muscles of the pelvic region. So if there is hypertonia, hypertonic, or can be the opposite, hypotonic. Okay, whatever thing that is not in balance, it comes derives in dysfunction. Okay, so in any case that the muscles of the pelvis, the diaphragm of the pelvic region are not working properly, are not in a good quality, it brings problems to the organs. And most of the problems that comes in, especially in women, and I don't want to say only women, also can be in a man, that the cause, let's see, the root is because the muscles of the pelvic region, the diaphragm of the pelvis are not working properly, is because the legs are not, the muscles of the legs are not holding the body. So if I don't extend in my legs properly, because we support the trunk, is support on the legs. So if the pelvis region cannot support itself, there is not stability in the legs, the muscles of the pelvic region become tight, because they are trying to do what the legs are not doing. You understand that? Yes. If you feel, and this is something that you can really feel by yourself when you do your own practice, if you stand up properly in Tadasana using the legs in a proper way, you feel that the muscles of the pelvic region, they become soft, but they lift, and at the same time they are lifting. They are not dropping, but they are not tight. You see? They are not tight, they are soft, and when they are soft, they can move. Because in the diaphragm of the pelvic region, there is also a movement. There is a movement there. So this is an important point. Huh? This is an important point. And this is also the last point that I was talking before. So we saw each of these systems contains a diaphragm. Okay? And then in the last point say, for the proper functioning of these systems and the diaphragms, the structures that form the lines of gravity, means T4, etc., must remain stable as a point of support. You see what we were saying before. If there is not an stability in the outer body, in the skeletal or muscular skeletal system, if it is not stable, you cannot give a proper movement on the inner body. And now, only one point more, this inner movement that take place in the cavities and the diaphragms and these systems are also connecting with the values.
With the?
Values. Apana vayu, samana vayu, prana vayu, udana vayu, and vyana vayu. So the action here comes a very beautiful point. The action in the diaphragms, because values are related with the diaphragms. With these systems, inside the pelvic region, in all these systems there is apana, in all the systems there is samana, in this cavity. there is a mana, prana, etc. So the action that moves the values is what we call in yoga bandha. Yes or no? But to apply, for applying, because bandha is an action that you apply in a diaphragm. Yes? Mula bandha, Uddiyana bandha, Jiva bandha, Jalandhara bandha, and also Jiva bandha. So they are actions that you apply in the diaphragms for the movement of the values. But for applying these actions properly in a correct way, first you have to work in the outer body. First you have to work in the proper alignment of the bone, the muscles, the pelvis, the thorax, the head, to have a proper movement in this system, to keep a good movement in the diaphragm, and then the bandhas will come. So it's a long process. It's a long process of time. Okay? So let's go, let's continue. We have 15 minutes more of class. So what I would like to do now, we are going to see a little bit anatomy now. And let's going to talk about a little bit about T4. We are last week we already saw something. So now let's going to go a little bit deeper. So I need to explain something important here, some principles, because now we are going to understand how to create stability in the T4. Because we need to create stability in the dorsal spine, in the upper dorsal spine, that is called cardiac spine, because it's in relation with the heart. But how to create that? How we can arrive there? Because with my hand I cannot touch even. Well, I can do that. I can do it, but not with the proper rotation of the arm. Okay? So I cannot arrive with my hand, but I can arrive with my shoulder blade. So I want to explain a little principle that when, for example, when we do any asana, for example, trikonasana, whatever, I just want to place the hand. I using a prop, I using a block, for whatever asana. Can be Pincha Mayurasana, for example. Pincha Mayurasana, or can be trikonasana. And then you see that the block is moving. The block is not stable. The block is moved. You are doing Pincha Mayurasana and the block is moving. So what does it mean? Why the block is moving? Because the block cannot move by itself. Because doesn't have nervous system, so it cannot move by itself. So the block is moving, the block is unstable because my arm is unstable. Yes or no?
Yes.
It's my arm that is moving the block. So the block is not stable because my arm is not stable. So if I stabilize the block, I stabilize the arm. You understand this principle?
Yes.
So sometimes the block is moving and you try to stabilize your arm, but you cannot. So try to stabilize the block. And if you stabilize the block, you stabilize the arm. Can you get this principle? So stabilizing the block, you stabilize yourself. Yes? So in according to this principle, here in the dorsal spine, this is, now we are going to see the muscles. This dorsal spine, especially T4, that this is this one here, they are connecting with the muscles that move the scapula, the shoulder blade, because the shoulder blade have a lot of movement here. We saw yesterday, last week, we talked about this. There is not so much stability in the shoulder blades. So this is the block. This is the block. So if I want to stabilize the dorsal spine, I need to stabilize the shoulder blade. Stabilizing the shoulder blade, I stabilize the dorsal spine. You get the point?
Yes.
Yes? So you don't have to go directly here. Actually in yoga, we don't have to go directly to the spine. We have to go, the force, our intention is not going directly to the spine. We have to go to the spine through the arms and through the legs. This is something very clear in Iyengar yoga. Okay, this is very clear. So stabilizing the shoulder blades, I stabilize the dorsal spine. This is the point. Okay? So now, to understand how to stabilize, now the point is, now I know how to stabilize the dorsal spine. I need to stabilize the shoulder blades. So now the second question, how to stabilize the shoulder blades? So now comes the second principle that is called tensegrity. Okay? So, I don't know if everyone can see the block here. So you have a block here. Tensegrity means you can take for some different part, but sometimes if I push the block from here, the block will fall to this side. If I push the block from here, the block will fall to this side. So if I push the block from both sides, it remains stable, okay? But in tensegrity, that this is what we are going, because this was the first principle of therapy. If you have a problem in a joint, so you build muscles, a lot of muscles, and the joint cannot move anymore and you don't have pain. This was the first principle. But then they understood that when the muscle becomes short, there is more pressure in the joint, and then second problems will come. So then comes the idea of tensegrity. I don't have some rope, but just try to imagine. If I put a rope here, I put rope here, I put rope here and here, and there is 4 people pulling the block, pulling the block, pulling the bell in the same magnitude of 4, the block will be lifted and be stable.
Yes.
So we are pulling the block from different sides, okay? And the block, we stabilize the block, okay? So this principle is what is called tensegrity, okay? And it's extremely close to the Iyengar yoga practice, okay? So now, that means that if I want to stabilize the block, I need to pull the shoulder blade from different sides.
Yes.
So I need to use different muscles. Not only this muscle that brings the shoulders together, because stability will be never only in one way. It has to be different ways. So here in the shoulder blades, we need to create some muscles that bring the shoulder blades close to the spine, but then another muscles, as Ushaji said in the class, in which there is a movement, it has to be a resistance. In that way, you create stability. So you have some muscles that pull in the shoulder blade from here. You have other muscles that pull the shoulder blade from here to this side. And then finally, we have some muscles that bring the shoulder down. The shoulder blade. And of course, the shoulders. Because if I pull the shoulder blade down, the shoulder also comes down, okay? So this is very important. So if you want, in the 10 minutes that we have the class, we are going to see these muscles. And now, what is the importance of anatomy in this case? Because it's not about to remember the name of the muscles and where the muscles are. It's not about to get more information. Remember that we said in last class that anatomy gives us a language to talk about it, but then give us a location. So when I know that there are some muscles that pull the shoulder blade down, and these muscles are in this way connecting from T5 to T12, that is the lower part of the trapezius, and I know where these muscles are, when I am in the practice and I have to bring the shoulder blade down, I know that the muscles that bring the shoulder blade down are here, in this area. So my mind is here, the awareness is here. The sensation that I am looking for in the practice to move the shoulder blade down is not only in the shoulder. This is the reaction, but the action has to be in these muscles. Right? And then I know that there are some muscles here that help me to move the shoulder blades closer to the spine, so the sensation has to be here. And then I know that there is some other muscles here, especially Shirshasana, Pincha Mayurasana, especially Shirshasana, there are some muscles here that help me to move the shoulder blade in this direction and bring the shoulder blades into the ribs. And these muscles are here. So when I'm doing Shirshasana, this is something that I do a lot, I need to feel not only the shoulder blade, because here there is a reaction. So of course I have to feel the shoulder blade, but my awareness is here, in this area. If I create compactness in this area, I can hold the shoulder blade. If I lose this area, the shoulder will go on. So knowing where the muscles are, I can keep the attention, the awareness during the practice. Yes, give me location, okay? Then in the practice, I'm going for the sensation. I'm going to look at the sensation, okay? So if you agree, we can go into see what are these muscles. So the first muscles that already we saw last class is this. Okay, this is the trapezius. And this is clear for you. For all of you can see. Yes. So a little light comes. So I need to put. Yes. Now we can go one a little bit inside the body to see these muscles. So yesterday we saw these muscles in the class. This is the rhomboid. In English, rhomboid. There are two. So of course there is one and there is a pair. So there is one in each side, but this is the major rhomboid. And then a little bit up, there are the minor rhomboid. So these muscles here, they start from the C7. C7 is a special vertebra, which Shaji mentioned this vertebra today in class, because C7 is like a small sacrum. It's a small sacrum. The same action that we have to do in the sacrum for the extension of the lumbar spine, we have to do in the C7 for the extension of the neck. It's important. So these vertebrae have to come down and have to come in. So you see that the minor, the rhomboidal minor, is holding from the C7, okay, and then T1, C7, T1, and then from T3 to T5, it comes the rhomboides major, the big one, okay? These two. And now something important to understand the mechanisms, the biomechanics of the body, is when you see the muscles, you need to see the direction, again, vectors. You have to see the directions. Because if the dorsal spine, this spine, is the fixed point for this movement of the shoulder blades, if I make an action in this muscle, the shoulder blade will go like this, in the belly, like a belly. Yes, we saw that last class, like this. It comes like this. The lower corner, the lower angle of the shoulder blade, it comes a little bit in. The outer shoulder blade, it comes a little bit in, okay? It's just an adjustment. We are not trying to close the spine, okay? So don't misunderstand. We don't close the spine, okay? Just we hold the shoulder blade from here, okay? So this is the first muscle that helps me to move the shoulder blade a little, to hold the shoulder blade from the back. And then we have a very important muscle, really important muscle, that is this one. The serratus. We like to see with the ribs. So let me try to see again. Now I can show, yes. This is the serratus. How is the name in English? Let me see the serratus, no? But there are two serratus. This is the anterior serratus, okay? Because there is the posterior serratus. Okay, so when we saw this muscle, we see that this muscle actually originates in the same part of the rhomboides. So rhomboides were here. The rhomboides are inserted in the medial border of the shoulder blades, here, in this border, in the inner border or medial border. Okay? And the serrato is engaging, is attaching, is inserted in the same place of the rhomboides. Now we are going to see all together, both together. And then they come here to the ribs, and they engage to the ribs, here. So the contraction of this muscle, it brings the action, let's see like this, it brings the shoulder blade in this direction, around the spine, in this action. That this is what we do in Shirshasana. You see? I have to move the shoulder blades in this action. But this is not completely like this. I have also to engage the shoulder blades here. So remember that it's not only in one side. And actually, when the people have the problem of scapula alata, I think in English is the same, because it's a Latin name, you know what it is? Some people that the shoulder blade is completely disattached of the body, that it looks like a two wings, yes? All the exercise that you have to do to learn how to engage the shoulder blades is to reinforce this muscle, to learn how to use this muscle. This muscle is the muscle that attach the shoulder blade to the ribs, okay? And now we are going to see something very important, very good, and we were going to finish because I don't want to extend the class. But this is important to understand how yoga works. So now we have the rhomboides, we have the shoulder blades, and we have the serratus. So when we saw, this is the rhomboides here, we have the shoulder blades, and we have the serratus. And then when you see them from behind, they are the same muscle, you understand that? Yes. They are attaching to the spine, to the shoulder blade, in the same place. This is the shoulder blade, this is the inner border. But the people who has the scapula lata, this one, it comes completely out, that sometimes you can bring the hand inside. This is very bad, actually. This is very bad. Okay? So when you have this problem, it's because this border of the shoulder blade is disconnecting. So now you understand how these two muscles move this border inside the chest, inside the ribs. And now, I will finish with that. Very important in yoga, in the movement, for the movement, these two muscles are antagonists. Because this muscle moves the shoulder blade close to the spine, this muscle moves the shoulder blade away from the spine. So they are antagonists in the movement. But in the stability, they are synergic. That is the point. That is what we saw about two forces in the same magnitude create stability. Yes? That is the point. What in the movement is antagonist, in yoga, in stability, are synergetic. And this is one of the mistakes of the most of the anatomy books for yoga. That in the anatomy books for yoga, they talk about antagonist muscles. But in yoga, there is not antagonist muscles, they are not antagonists. Not any muscles is antagonist to the other muscles. All the muscles in yoga works together, works as a synergy. That is very important to keep in mind. That's the reason for why these books are not good books. Okay? No, yes, not good because they don't keep in mind this. They don't keep in mind because people are too attached to move. It's natural. You need to. You have the feeling that you have to move, and this is why yoga is so unnatural. So let's go into see the last muscle and we will finish. And we'll do a really quickly view. So we have the last muscle here. Let me see how come back. Okay, so the last muscle that we have to keep in mind to the stability of the shoulder blades is this, the lower part of the trapezius. You see, this is the trapezius. All this, what you see here, is the trapezius. They are big muscle. It's a big muscle here that comes from the back of the head, the occipital, to the shoulder blades, the shoulder, and then come down until T12. But they are divided in three parts. The upper part of the trapezius here, the middle part of the trapezius, and the lower part of the trapezius. Because depending on how you use these muscles, they affect the shoulder blade in different ways. Okay? So now what is important for us is the lower part of the shoulder blades, because this is the muscles that allow us to move the shoulder blades down. So if we're going to see the movement, so this is the movement of the lower part of the trapezius, you see? To move the shoulder and the arm back down. And this is the action of the trapezius, to bring the shoulder blade down. So these three muscles that we see, the rhomboides, the serratus, and the lower part of the trapezius, are the three muscles that stabilize the shoulder blades. So attention, we are going to have to be there. In this area, in the area here, in the side of the upper chest, and then here, you see? And then there is something very nice, that the lower part of the trapezius start in T6, and finish in T12, in the last vertebral dorsal spine. The rhomboids start from C7 and finish in the T5. So from C7 to T12, all the dorsal spine are connected with the shoulder blades. All the dorsal spine. So again, stabilizing the shoulder blades, we stabilize the dorsal spine. Okay, so this is the okay, we will finish the class today. That is a lot of information. So thanks to all of you to come. And we will continue.